10 seconds. 5 seconds.
Hello and welcome to Get to Know. I'm LLoyd and this is the show where our expert panellists discuss the latest burning issues from across the sporting world. Coming up on this week's show. No gears but some idea. Can the fixie fad become the future of cycling? And the war for talent. Is the south of England a big enough draw for rugby league's biggest stars? Well, joining me on the sofa this week, my first guest narrowly survived the executioner when covering football in China a few years ago. It's the man who put ping pong into the 2016 Olympics in Brazil. Please welcome Tom Lewis. Deja vu. Good to see you, sir. Thank you very much for coming in. And my next guest survives on a diet of energy drinks and painkillers. It is a miracle he's still with us, but he's here to share his extensive sporting knowledge. Please welcome Thomas Heath. Hello, sir. Good to see you. Gentlemen, we've both brushed with death. Tom, what was your experience in China?
It wasn't personal brush with death, but many years ago I was doing the Chinese Football League when it had just started being a big professional industry out there. And we were doing a match in Chengdu. And what we normally had to do was to set up the stadium properly with all the TV cameras, and we weren't allowed to use satellites, so we had a lot of business down at the stadium. And one morning we weren't allowed in. And it turned out that they were executing drug smugglers. They had a full crowd, 42,000, oddly enough the same attendance they had for the football the next day. And by the time we got in the afternoon, they'd cleared up the mess. And I seem to recall Sichuan went down to a 1-0 home defeat.
All the important things to remember.
Well, yeah.
How did that make you feel, finding out that was why it was closed? Because you're fluent in Chinese, right? So I imagine you found that...
To be honest with you, it's sort of par for the course there. You know, I mean, the guy who I was dealing with at the Chinese FA then, he was a good friend actually, and he was much into the execution of drug smugglers. Unfortunately, he's just come out after a 6-year stretch for match fixing. So
well, that says it all.
That's the way it works out there.
Weird and wonderful tales. And Thomas, you had a more personal brush with death a little bit more recently. Tell us what happened to you earlier
probably
this year.
not quite as dramatic as...
you didn't have an audience of 42,000.
I had some surgery recently, sort of a bit of a surprise emergency, sort of stomach surgery, bit of a stomach ache in the morning, and turned out to be a hell of a lot more. But, yeah, well on the road to recovery now, which is, you know, very grateful for, to say the least.
I'm hearing from backstage that the bigger picture is you lost your car keys. The big question is, did you find them?
No, but they left the wristwatch in there.
Oh, well, that's good to know.
Not an Irish one, however.
And Tom's your tutor. Did he let you off the course that you missed?
Yes, there was certain threats of failing and stuff like that, just to get me to recover quicker. And it's sort of dangling the carrot, if you will.
It's a harsh industry, and you know, merely having your stomach opened up is really.
There are no excuses.
I failed to see why that was an excuse to...
I believe his phrase was "sling a plaster on it and man up."
Well, listen, you have done that. You're both here, and it's a pleasure to have you, gentlemen. Thanks for coming in. Now, fixed gear cycling, or fixies, have become very popular with rappers and coffee-drinking hipsters. But is this a niche market, or can different forms of cycling transcend into the world of competitive sport? We met Alex Briggs, rider for the specialised Rocket Espresso team of the Red Hook Crit event in London.
My name's Alex Briggs. I am from Forest Hill, which is about 10 minutes from here, the borough of Lewisham, which is next to Greenwich. Been riding bikes too long. Have you ever seen Speedway, which is like dirt ovals, motorbikes riding around? I used to watch that a lot with my dad, and pretend to be one and play with little figurines and in the garden like dress up and like my dad like make these breastplates out like tarpaulin and stuff. Quickly realised it wasn't good enough to ride a motorbike. Also having like a bit of a tough time at school when I was younger. And my parents said, no, let's take him down to Herne Hill, which is 10 minutes from my house, Herne Hill Stadium. And ended up just kept going back and going back and going back. David Trimble started this Red Hook crit in Red Hook 10 years ago for a birthday party. I think just like maybe like 15 people or something. And he just wanted to race a criterium on track bikes, you know. I think he had a good idea about it. He's come from like a motorsport racing background where things like racing lines and apexes and racecraft matter a lot more, you know. And I think he saw a real niche in that and has transferred that over to the bike. And for me, that's why I like it. So I'm racing here with people that have ridden, you know, Grand Tours and been professional cyclists and still are. Come on, Martino! Come on, Stefan! That's my teammate Stefan in the red. He's the current series leader, and it looks like it's a really hard heat, this one. A lot harder than mine, which I'm quite thankful for. Now, only, I think, 18 qualify through to the final directly. I think 10 after that, between 19th and maybe 25th, maybe a few more, go through to the last chance race. And you really don't want to be in that race. So if you have to go to the last chance, it means you have to race another race, tire your legs out, tire your lungs out. And the top 5 from each heat go through to something called Super Pole. Now, Super Pole is, come on, Rob, man, keep digging. With Super Pole, you have 1 lap on your own, and you try and set the fastest lap you can. Now, if you finish first, you finish on the front of the grid. And not only do you start on the front, you end up with 3 championship points to the series. So for some riders, that's really valuable. Different tracks play to different riders. And it's a combination of, a balanced combination, like any other discipline, of skill, speed, pedaling technique, racecraft in the head, power and strength, you know, and you need a bit of everything, and that's what I really like about it. You know, I think, in all honesty, cycling as a whole, especially road and like the bigger stuff, may have shunned the fixed gear stuff, because essentially, and even for me 3 years ago, I was like, it's a bunch of hipsters or, you know, random guys riding bikes, and didn't really consider them athletes. But then in the last 3 years or 2 years, everyone's just gone, that's a big thing. There's a niche here. It's its own discipline. It's really important to get a good start. And what you need to do is try and get your feet clipped into your pedals as quick as you can. And because you're on a fixed gear, it's a lot harder to do that. Because you can't freewheel and look where your pedal is. You have to try and get your foot in as the pedals come around. So because the course is so wet today, it's just stringing out. Normally on a really fast dry course, all the riders will stick together. But because it's so technical and hard and actually really slow, the course is running really slow, the peloton's just fragmenting everywhere.
And we did a bike exchange here in turn number 1. Stefan Schaefer being the ultimate teammate here. He had his bike ready. Alec Briggs definitely has the fitness. He certainly has the skill set to make his way back into the field. Iman Lucas needs to slow the field down for his teammate Alec Briggs, who is now chasing with a flat.
It's going to be dangerous, man. The course and the corners are really slippy, and people take risks, and if you get it wrong, you get it wrong very easily in this.
Red flag on the course, that means we're going to neutralize the race. We have too many riders down.
Well, a really interesting insight from Alec Briggs there. And I guess begs the question, with this kind of event growing year on year as it has done for the last 8 or so years, can this kind of alternative cycling transcend into the world of competitive sport? What do you think, Thomas?
I think it absolutely can. I think everyone, you know, when you watch the Tour de France, when you watch the velodrome cycling, everyone loves a fast finish. Everyone loves that exciting end. And this gives you exactly that. I think it's brilliant. The skills involved at that speed as you see in the video, you know, wet track, to be able to go at those speeds, tight corners, you know, your competitors right alongside you. I think it's got all the ingredients to, you know, go a distance and become one of the more popular sports, absolutely.
And it's symptomatic of the wider picture in sport generally, Tom, that some of the mainstream sports are seeing these sort of niche, smaller versions between T20 cricket, rugby sevens. Is this paving the way for a kind of a new form of sport, particularly at the Olympic Games? I
think there is a definite evolution taking place. If you know, you take cricket for an example. If you make the analogy between cricket and long form cycling, such as the big tours, you will see that's the classic. That's always going to be there. But there are going to be other ways that the sport is going to evolve that are going to be more accessible, because not everybody's going to be able to do the Tour de France, but plenty of people are going to be able to go around a BMX track at speed. And these sports do bring more people into the thing. Let's take the example of cricket. Now, Test cricket, 5-day event, a really, really tough thing to do. That couldn't be part of any major sporting event because it'd take too much time. T20 will be in the Olympics in 12 years' time, I'm sure of it, because they've now got the format that's right.
And one of the other things that's just coming in the last couple of weeks, actually, sport climbing, speed climbing in particular, another faster version of the mainstream sport, that's coming to the Olympics. Any thoughts on that, Thomas?
I think, again, it's probably better off there as a test event. I think that, you know, give it its opportunity, but there are so many other sports as well out there that deserve a chance, like korfball that, you know, I'm a huge fan of, that you know, could be given a chance. I think having test events is a great idea. Whether it can, again, become a fully fledged sport, I'm not sure.
We'll have to wait and see. All right, well, lots more to chat about on the show, gents. Thanks for coming in. Don't go anywhere, because we'll be right back after the break getting to know more from our guests. Hello and welcome back to Get to Know. The two Toms are ready and raring to go with our next topic. Now, Australia, New Zealand and Papua New Guinea are set to host the Rugby League World Cup at the end of this month. At the start of the season, the London Broncos had 8 potential representatives for the World Cup, one of whom was William Bartow. As he now heads back to France, we explore if the south of England can do more to keep the best players in its ranks.
Je m'appelle William Bartow, je joue demi de mêlée ou parfois talonneur et ça fait maintenant 3 ans que je suis à Londres. Toute la famille était dans le rugby à 13, que ce soit mon grand-père, mon père, même ma mère a joué. Donc j'ai commencé à l'âge de 4 ans. Je jouais pour les Dragons catalans et il y avait quand même il y avait de bons joueurs à mon poste et j'avais un temps de jeu réduit. Et j'ai eu l'opportunité de venir à Londres, d'avoir une place de titulaire. J'avais la confiance du coach, donc ça m'a de suite donné l'envie de venir et de découvrir aussi une autre culture. Parce que l'Angleterre quand même reste aussi le monde du rugby et je ne regrette pas ce choix. Dans mon ancien club en France, tous les entraînements se faisaient en anglais, étaient traduits en français. Donc sur le terrain, je n'étais absolument pas perdu. C'est vrai que dans la vie de tous les jours, ça m'a un peu posé problème au début, mais j'ai eu la chance d'être tout seul, donc je ne pouvais parler en français avec personne, donc j'ai été obligé d'apprendre. Et les jours de match, je me lève plutôt tôt. C'est un jour particulier, c'est le jour J. On s'entraîne toute la semaine exprès pour 80 minutes de jeu, donc il faut vraiment être focalisé sur le match, ne pas penser au week-end d'après ou au week-end d'avant. Mais bon, c'est un jour comme les autres, il faut prendre du plaisir sur ce qu'on fait et d'essayer de donner le meilleur. C'est vrai que je suis quelqu'un de superstitieux, mais une fois que je suis sur le terrain, je pense plus à tout ça. Et on perd, c'est pas grave, il y aura un week-end après, mais être sûr qu'on ne refait pas les mêmes erreurs. c'est compliqué parce que les saisons sont quand même chargées. Et la plupart du temps, les matchs en équipe de France se font durant l'intersaison. Donc c'est vrai qu'on a un peu moins de repos que les autres. Mais bon, je ne peux pas me plaindre. Pour jouer pour l'équipe de France, c'est une chance. Il y a beaucoup de joueurs qui aimeraient être en place. Franchement, c'est quelque chose à vivre. Il y a plein de liens qui se créent. Tu fais une Coupe du Monde pas simplement avec des joueurs professionnels. C'est pas ton collègue de boulot avec qui tu vas faire une Coupe du Monde, c'est vraiment des copains. C'est une bande, il faut que tu crées quelque chose tout le temps et tu sais quelque chose que tu n'oublies pas. Et si j'ai la chance de faire celle-là, je vais en profiter à fond.
Well, since making that VT, he's moved, he's gone, he's done the off, and I guess begs the question of the picture is that will rugby league in the south ever kind of earn the respect that it deserves? What do you think?
Well, it's very hard. It's very hard because rugby league, in its history, ever since the breakaway of 1895, rugby league has been the north of England. It's been West Yorkshire, it's been Humberside, it's been Merseyside. That's what it's been. The south has always been rugby union. It was always staunchly amateur. And so therefore, when rugby union became professional in '95, the Broncos and the other teams around, who were not in the north, they haven't had anywhere to go, you know, because there are roots in the south, but they're not massive. And you can see it in reverse if you look at the rugby union Premiership. Now the strong teams are the ones from the south. They're the Saracens. They're the Baths. They're the Gloucesters. They're the teams from the south of England that have some tradition. Up in the north, there's very little rugby union, and the clubs there tend to be out of the rugby league area. So you get Sale. All right, that's a rugby league area. Just Newcastle isn't. Yorkshire Carnegie, yes, they're in Leeds, but they're second tier. So there's a bit of a dichotomy here. The rugby league, in order to catch on in the south, needs more roots. Will it get it? I'm not sure. And what it means is that a lot of the players who do play for the Broncos are imports, such as Bartow, such as the Northern lads. It's very easy for them to get homesick.
Thomas, do you agree with that? Is there enough homegrown talent in the south, or is that an area that they need to look at in order to try and put a foothold in the market, so to speak?
I think the way the southern teams will progress in rugby league is that you'll find that there are the academy players that come through from the hotbed of talent, which is the north. They're not going to break into teams like Leeds, St Helens, the really successful teams. So they will then leave their academies, etc., and probably come to people like the Broncos. That's why they were so successful when they got to Challenge Cup final, etc. And then inevitably they will play. They will become a hell of a lot better, especially in the Championship. You know, playing in the second 8, and they will then inevitably go back up north to the bigger clubs. People like Wigan, Castleford obviously lost in the Super League final, but they will go back where the success is. So I think the South will always be used as a breeding ground, but if enough of those players come down at the same time, they may well end up being very successful.
Now, you're a Welshman, and you spent your rugby playing days doing a bit of training with London Broncos.
Yes.
Broncos have currently got 5 Welsh players going to the World Cup. How do you think they'll get on?
I think they'll do all right. I think you've got players like Elliot Keir, very talented young players. I think they will go. They will certainly compete. They may get through if things fall their way. But I think it's, again, about developing the sport. It's about bringing players through, and then, you know, maybe another 4 years' time, they're a very young group, and then they can push on, perhaps in the next World Cup, and use this one for experience, and, you know, really just proving that they can compete with the higher sides.
Well, great to have your insights. Of course, it all kicks off at the end of this month, Australia, New Zealand and Papua New Guinea as well. Thank you, gentlemen. But with that is all, unfortunately, we've got time for this week. A big thanks, as always, to our guests, Tom Lewis and Tom Heath, for taking their time out to come down and share their sporting insight with us. Coming up on next week's show, we get to know Ryan the Piranha Garner, the up-and-coming boxer making waves in the professional ranks. And we find out about the challenges faced by Palestinian women's football team as they tour the UK. Well, don't forget you can follow us on social media using @GetToKnow. Thanks for your company, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye for now. One more.
One of the reasons that Ealing are second in the championship, essentially.